So, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished panelists and students, good morning. I welcome you all to the 10th Power of Conserve panel discussion on net zero and water management on the occasion of National Energy Conservation Day. We, Desired Energy Solutions, are a Bureau of Energy Efficiency certified, only grade 1 energy efficiency company working in public water management. We organize this event every year in order to promote and increase awareness around energy conservation and water management among students, industry, as well as other stakeholders. Over the past 9 editions, thousands of students from all over India have participated in this event and they were rewarded with various awards such as internships, job opportunities, startup and project funding opportunities by Desire and its partner companies. And today, like all the other editions, we have hundreds and thousands of students as well as industry people joining on various platforms such as Zoom, YouTube, as well as LinkedIn. Now, coming to the panel discussion, we are honored to have amongst us as first our chief guest, Mr. Ajitab Sharma, Chairman and MD, Jaipur City Transport Services Limited. I'm sure we all have seen and heard Sir talking about water and energy conservation over LinkedIn and other platforms. Sharing the panel with him, we have Mr. Thank you, sir. Sharing the panel with him, we have Mr. Ganesh Shankar, founder and CEO of Fluxing Technologies, Mr. Shreyas Gune, Deputy Commissioner, State Project, Department of Water Resources, Government of India, Mr. Dheeraj Sant Desai, an associate from Niti Aayog, Ms. Joseanne A. Kennedy, former project officer at World Meteorological Organization, Mr. Praveen Singh, business head at Pump Division, Andritz, India, and our very own Mr. Gaurav Kumar Gupta, founder and managing director, Desire Energy Solutions. And moderating this wonderful panel, we have with us Mr. Arpit Chaturvedi, co-founder and CEO, Global Policy Insights. We're sure this panel will throw great insights around the topic. However, just before starting and handing over to Arpit, we'd like to play a short video about what Desire does and what value we aim to create for the people of India as well as the world. So can I have the video, please?
Year, 2 lakh people in our country die due to inadequate access to Every year, 2 lakh people in our country die due to inadequate access to safe drinking water. Despite being a water surplus country, half of our population faces water shortage. The problem is not scarcity of water. The problem is a poorly managed water supply system. In a more conventionally managed system, about 40% of supplied water is lost due to leakages, lack of maintenance, and other factors.
We realized something needs to be changed, and this led to the foundation of Desire Energy, a tech-driven water management company working passionately towards making water management smart, efficient, and sustainable. Through our different teams, such as ASCO for energy efficiency, water infrastructure,
Smart EPC for sustainable water infra development,
decentralized water management for rural water supply,
Ecologics for tech-driven water solutions,
Sun Aquater, our smart agriculture solar pumping system.
We are ensuring access to quality drinking water for the people of India in the most sustainable and efficient manner.
Aligning with India's target for net zero emission by 2070. Desire Energy is among the first BE certified ASCO companies,
bringing experience and expertise in the areas of hydraulic modeling, pumping system design, and tech-driven platforms, helping us achieve up to 70% energy saving in public water supply system. At Desire Energy, we are known for our on-time, efficient, and sustainable development of water infrastructure projects. Through our smart management tools, tech-driven solutions, and technical expertise, we make the conventional water infrastructure more efficient, economical, and sustainable, thus ensuring equal and uninterrupted access of water to all. We are currently providing uniform water supply to around 22,000 plus villages under Jal Jeevan Mission.
Desire Energy helps save life by providing innovative solutions to remote areas striving for clean and regular water without any dependence on electricity.
Our community-based solar DFU units, RO system, and ATM-based water dispenser have resolved the problem of transmission of clean water to fluoride and TDS-affected areas. Aqualogics, our in-house IoT to automate project management, live data monitoring, and provide predictive and breakdown maintenance solutions. For example, when a pumping system experiences any issues, be it mechanical stress or any breakdowns, an alert is generated through Aqualogics, which is sent to the command center. Further, these alerts are sent to field teams based on their priorities and corresponding SMAs. Aqualogics is all about monitoring and management, be it cost, energy, and most importantly, water.
For these path-breaking innovative ideas, Desire Energy was honored with the National Award in the Service Sector by PM Shri Narendra Modi, Udyog Ratna Award by the CM of Rajasthan, Srimati Vasudha.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that amazing video of the work that Desire Energy is doing, really transforming the national water infrastructure. With that, I'd like to now start with our panel discussion. So first of all, thanks to all of the panelists for joining in. Mr. Ajitab Sharma, Mr. Dheeraj Sant Dasani, Mr. Gaurav Kumar Gupta, Mr. Ganesh Shankar, Ms. Josiane Kennedy, Mr. Shreyas Gune, and Mr. Praveen Singh. Welcome all of you. My name is Arpit Chaturvedi, and I am extremely delighted to be hosting this panel today. Now, today what we are discussing is the role of energy efficiency in water infrastructure to achieve net zero by 2070. That's the goal that the Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, has put in front of the country and has committed to the world that India is going to achieve in the years to come. Now, let me begin by establishing that, as per various researchers, and I'm drawing on a research conducted by the World Bank Group, Rosenberg and Fay, with the right investments in sustainable infrastructure and with the commitment of 4.5% of national GDPs, there is a real chance that we can stay within the 2-degree centigrade limit of global warming and save our planet from going towards self-destruction. So I want to start this panel on a positive note and by establishing that all is not gloom and doom. Okay. Now, for many municipal governments across the world, drinking water and wastewater plants typically are the largest energy consumers and often accounting to about 30 to 40% of the total energy consumed. Now, that is the sort of impact that water infrastructure, if we work on it, can bring. Now, keeping this in mind, let me first invite the chief guest over here today, Mr. Ajitab Sharma, to respond to the following questions, sir. So, Mr. Sharma, my questions to you are that how can the use of renewable energy sources be integrated into India's water infrastructure in order to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions and improve energy efficiency in our country? And what's the role of Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat as missions in addressing the water crisis and distribution in India? So over to you, Mr. Sharma.
Yeah, Arpit, thank you. So first of all, my apologies that you will have to bear with my bad throat. I caught cold yesterday after some dinner. But anyway, I'll try to be brief and speak less and would convey my views and opinion about the whole idea and concept behind which this web conference is being organized. First of all, I would like to thank a lot to Desire Energy Solutions and to you, Arpit, also, and to Gaurav and other esteemed panelists who are present here today. So I was just going after the brief bio or resume, whatever I could lay hands upon of the other members who are present today here in the panel. So I had a feeling that they all know much more than me, you also. So I had sent a few connection requests to some of the members, and I'm glad and happy that I received their acceptance. Okay. So now coming back to your first point that the picture is not so gloomy. So you are perfectly right, Arpit, but I'll go back to the recent Glasgow COP27, which was held a few months ago, and the manner in which the whole issue of global warming and the 3 reports basically in which this whole idea of the impact of global warming is in a way compiled and circulated and brought in public domain. So one report is regarding the mitigation issues, second is regarding adaptation issues, and the third, which is basically the first, is about climate science. So it is climate science, mitigation, and adaptation. So these are the 3 broad areas. So I was very closely pursuing about what all were the discussions which were going on and whatever came into the public domain through media reportings and the various speeches and conversations which took place between the civil society. So I would not say that I'm being pessimistic, but to me, it seems that the road ahead is a little bit difficult to pursue the goal of less than 2 degree centigrade of increase in global temperature up to the threshold here, what we have envisaged. And certainly there are countries like India, which are very, very varied and different kind of challenges to face to achieve this net zero target. But under the able leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister and the other ministers in various ministries and different think tanks which are working very closely and strongly, I think we are on the right path. But now, with this background, I would like to come to your first question, I think, which was related to the use of renewable energy. So water and energy both are very strange kind of resources, and they are never ample and they are always short. And there is one peculiar characteristic, like when we talk about energy, we mostly talk about as a policymaker, So whenever we sit across the politicians and the policy think tanks and different departments within the government, so the point comes it about the energy trilemma index, like energy security, energy affordability, and sustainability. All these three things are very, very important. Same is with water. So when you talk about framing any kind of policy in the domain of water, it is about creating right value in the social, economic, environmental perspective of the requirement of water, and as well as valuing the water rightly, valuing the scarcity value of the water in different forms. It is difficult to monetize. So while we talk about using renewable energy sources, so one very bright side, I would straight away come to the point which I see in future, because I have worked in both the sectors for quite some time, is the very basic feature of renewable energy, which we can harness, is the distributed energy generation.
Yeah.
So it is one of the most basic feature that it can be, if the renewable resource is available, it can be generated at any place. So you have to build very like small or meager infrastructure for transmission, distribution, managing the frequency, managing the voltage. So this is the beauty which I see is the actual green light in future for decades to come. Distributed generation of renewable energy will increase like anything. And particularly when we see many cases like one was in Pakistan recently, and then few years ago in United States, like in California and Houston, most probably. So after natural disasters, when the electric grids fail, so in the areas which were not actually affected by the natural disaster, they get affected because of the failure in energy supply systems. So this is one thing very nice. And water again has a very peculiar characteristic of being distributed in space and time. So time in terms of the season or months, or like in few places you will get good rainfall in particular period of months. River would be flowing at its peak, like sometimes only for 15-20 days. And geographically also, both space and time. So there can be a very good synergistic combination of renewable energy resources and managing our water. I'm not going into detail like water distribution, treatment, supply, retreatment, and then again discharging it to the environment or the ecosystem. That is one thing. Another thing is that I was reading a report on this carbon disclosure project, Global Water Report 2020. So it used, and that figure was itself an eye opener to me. It says that the 10% of global emissions are because of the water sector as a whole, starting from extraction of water from natural sources, and then the supply of finally the treated or untreated water to the ecosystem. So that is a big figure, 10% of greenhouse gas emissions. So we will have to watch our whole water cycle, and at all those places, at what all points the renewable energy can play an essential role. That is the one point. So we need, like the other technology experts are present here, they would give their views on it. I have certain ideas, but I'm not pitching into that particular aspect of today's discussion. Second, wetlands, the natural aquatic ecosystems, they are huge carbon sinks. They can be used. So when we talk about renewable energy, we certainly, when we select the pathways like 1.5%, 2%, 3%, the best pathway considering the NDCs of the country, the domestic government decides. So the carbon sinks also have a major role to play in that policy perspective. Another thing is that wastewater. So it is a huge source of energy. So it has been technically proved that, though financially as of now till date, perhaps it is not so much feasible, but wastewater contains.
If I could request, okay, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Please do continue, sir.
Yeah. And please just interrupt me if I am taking too much time. There is no.
Certainly.
Yeah. So wastewater has got so much energy that even I think less than 50% of the energy which is embedded in the wastewater can be used to operate whole of the treatment plant.
Oh, absolutely.
The United Nations Water, UN Water, came out with a report, and there were projections along with the IEA report, the International Energy Agency, the Water Energy Nexus report. It says that in future, like in the 2030 scenario, 2050 scenario, and 2070 scenario, the biggest energy guzzlers in water sector would be the treatment and desalination. They would be highly energy intensive pathways which many countries would be adopting in future, particularly the not so rich countries, the poor countries and the emerging economies. Like in India, there is a Niti Aayog report which says that we only treat 20% of our urban wastewater. But ultimately, because of the international norms and WHO directions and guidelines and recommendations, we have to reverse this ratio. 80-20, we have to make 20-80. This would be requiring large energy. So renewable energy has a big scope and green light for us. It would be a big area where we should start working, extracting the embedded energy in the wastewater and using like solar panels or wind power and other renewable energy sources which are available. And desalination again, particularly the countries in the Middle East region of the
I
world.
was just about to say Saudi Arabia is a big example
Yeah.
over there. They have the largest.
Experts are saying, no, it is not a good and nice way to go for desalination. Rather, you should be focusing more on treatment and reuse of water, recycle the water. So it
Absolutely.
said that Israel has perhaps balanced out on the desalination thing and reuse of the treated water. So if desalination is the issue, then there are environmental reasons to worry about, and then there are energy reasons to worry about. So unless we strongly start harnessing renewable energy for these areas, the future pathways which we envisage to ensure water security, so it would be a difficult path to tread upon in future. Another thing is that like this green infrastructure thing or the nature-based solutions, they are less energy intensive, they are more resilient to climate change impact. They rather add more value to the social and environmental infrastructure. So at times our gray infrastructure fails because of n number of reasons. But the green infrastructure perhaps is able to cushion out those shocks. So considering the nature-based solutions and green infrastructure also having some kind of using renewable energy sources, the nature capital basically, which we call it, is not something exactly similar to solar or wind energy, but it is a source of renewable energy. So that is another thing. Then pumped hydro storage, kind of renewable energy, though it has some social and environmental impacts when the projects are in the course of construction and implementation, but pumped hydro storage is a big thing. So like renewable energy, it gives it balances out the major issue of intermittency and variability of solar and wind power. So that would be having a big role in future to play. I think the whole world needs to focus more on pumped hydro storage, because though it comes with added problems, but then it comes with added benefits also. Then last thing on this particular question would be like renewable energy for agriculture, like Desire.
Oh, that's a big one. That's a big one.
Desire is doing excellent work in renewable energy and drinking water schemes. And then agriculture is a big water guzzler and energy guzzler, particularly in my state of Rajasthan. So whenever we face crisis, agriculture is in the front of whether it is water crisis or it is energy crisis. So renewable energy use, but we have to balance out the water energy nexus. We should not end up into a this efficiency rebound effect. Like if we improve energy efficiency, then the consumption of energy doesn't come down to that extent. So if it remains not more than 50-60%, that also we will have to address either from technology solutions or from the policy prescriptions. So I hope the first question is
absolutely. And I do want to resound that the agriculture aspect of it is really important, and globally, agriculture consumes about 18% of the water, 20 something percent of the carbon emissions are through agricultural practices. So that's where a huge return on investment could be seen if we move towards a renewable path. So absolutely addresses the first question very well, sir. So in fact, let me come back to you with follow-ups. After I reach to Mr. Gaurav Gupta and Mr. Ganesh to answer, to pick up the thread from where Mr. Sharma has left us, that is, and my question to you would be that how can certain technologies such as IoT or AI, and not just high tech, but also medium to low tech applications, how do those play a role in reducing carbon emissions? And if you could also provide some successful case studies or examples of technologies that are really making a change on the ground. So anybody, Mr. Gupta or Ganesh, whoever wants to go in first.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Thank you so much for having me here in the first place. It's a real honor to be here with all the eminent guests. So my father says there are more than 1,000 lakes before I was born, and I come from the city of Bangalore, right? A beautiful city. Today we have less than 100 lakes, and today we get water all the way from river Kaveri, around 120 kilometers, right? So you already know that what was on our alley to get water from these lakes, now today we get all the way from 120 kilometers. There's so much of energy involved in pumping, purification, and getting this water. And Bangalore is also notorious for fire catching up on the lakes. So that also means that the water treatment is not up to the mark, and that leads to effluent getting in. So with this as a background, I realized that is a lot of, if we want to solve the problem of water, how do I look at it? Being from technology background, I am a graduate from University of Science. I learned most of this hardware, software background. So what we realized is just like how water as a liquid, is transparent and clear. What if you make the data of water transparent and clear and build solution on top of it? Can you solve the problem of water? So we have been able to see that. I mean, when all this, a lot of development in our countries happened recently is bringing many things transparent. So we believe whether it is the water quantity, amount of water that is going, whether it's a storage or consumption or the treatment, adding to what Ajita ji said, like water energy have a nexus. And if you put all these things onto a platform and identify inefficiencies, when I started this career in water, I was told that 50% of water in Bangalore is unaccounted. So that means this water is a non-revenue water. That water could actually be consumed by all of us, right? So, so that way, if you bring all the transparency in it and identify inefficiencies in it, like leakage, wastage, excessive usage, and also identify the downtime in your water treatment plant, right? Can you identify the downtime in the plant like 2 months in advance so that you take corrective action? So there's no downtime in the water treatment plant so that sewage doesn't go into your lakes or other bodies. So that way you're enabling technology to bring transparency and using technologies like artificial intelligence to identify anomalies, infrastructure issues, and even use this data that is coming out to plan the expansion of your infrastructure. Right, and using the learnings or the data that you get from whether it is water getting through this. And I'm very happy that the government is supporting through Amrit 2.0 vision. And we as a company, PluxGen Technologies, we have been one of those selected companies where we have been told to identify these infrastructure anomalies through our AI and IoT-based dashboard to tackle the water infrastructure inefficiency and give prescriptive alerts on our SaaS platform, web dashboard, and mobile handsets. The plumbing team or the ground staff which are running, they always have getting alerts on their mobile phone if there is any inefficiencies of this water is not treated properly, if there is a contamination level beyond certain limit, right? So identifying these things on the mobile and web and taking corrective actions. So that is something that since I come from Bangalore, we have seen how technology has enabled entertainment, gaming, retail sector. So it is time now that we utilize these technology to solve the problem, something as important as water, air, energy. So these are my thoughts. And if you ask me about the case study, so as a company, as a startup, we have been able to look into this in solving problems for various entities. One example I want to give out of various cases, there's a hospital in Coimbatore called G. Kuppuswamy Naidu Hospital. The hospital CEO said, Ganesh, we are here to heal the environment, not to harm the environment. So they told, we want to make sure that we consume least amount of water that is required and make sure that we are completely compliant in terms of water treatment and make sure become a example for managing water. And we actually deployed our AI and IoT-based platform in identifying inefficiencies, leakage, and wastage in the whole infrastructure, starting from input consumption, input from various sources, consumption, and treatment. We were able to reduce significant amount of water, almost like they were consuming 500,000 liters of water per day. They came down to almost like 350,000 liters of water per day by identifying leakage, inefficiencies, and
that's a 40% something reduction.
Yeah, corrective action. Not just that, they were able to get huge financial savings. So it is like sustainability is a business imperative today. Saving water, energy is a business. And then the hospital won the CII National Water Award after deploying this solution. And today the hospital also able to get Indian Green Building Counting Platinum rated and US Green Building Platinum rated.
So you know what you said, one thing that makes a lot of sense is that a lot of people think that these sustainability based interventions eventually turn out to be more expensive, and that's something that only the really wealthy organizations can have. But it eventually it is cheaper and it leads to a lot more cost cutting, and that's something that needs to be understood in that.
It is a myth, as you rightly said. I think there is so much of
myth.
It helps you become more sustainable in all aspects, not just for you.
Absolutely. So I have just gotten word that Mr. Shreyas Gune might have to leave us earlier. So let me take the opportunity to first move to a question for Shreyas, if I may. So, sir, if I could ask you this question, a similar one around what I'd asked Mr. Sharma around what's the role of public policy over here? What's the policy ecosystem's role and position in enabling the whole of the industrial ecosystem, the whole of the civil society ecosystem, and the tech ecosystem to come together and solve problems such as water conservation, water treatment, and water usage? Also from the perspective of ensuring that the renewable energy is utilized in those. If you could talk, for example, policies such as Amrut 2.0 or any other ecosystem initiatives that your department is taking, sir.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, so I would like to thank you for this opportunity. I'm really honored to share the panel with the eminent panelists. Regarding the role of government, well, I'd like to share one example. I was deputy director in NMCG for 5 years. For last 5. During this tenure,
and I would want you to, for the benefit of our audience, if you could expand on NMCG.
Yeah. Okay. So NMCG is the National Mission for Clean Ganga. It is the project that the government of India has bought in under the Namami Gange program, where we have allocated. We had allocations of 20,000 crore. And for that allocation, the main task was to clean the Ganga river and prevent all the sewage that is entering into Ganga from all the states, right? So during my tenure there, we had this policy that the operator, the person who was tasked with the construction of the sewage treatment plant, he would also operate that plant for 15 years. So yeah, so we tasked him with the operation also. So in that, what happened is he had incentive of building sustainable, a more efficient STP. Right, he himself introduced the energy conservation measures to make that kind of an STP, right? And also, just a second.
All right. So I don't know if I can go back to Mr. Sharma over here. I'm extremely interested in understanding, the role of policy makers and the bureaucracy generally in creating the right incentives and the right ecosystem for technology and businesses to impact the whole water and energy infrastructure space. What could be certain examples, or what could be certain ideas that you could share with us in terms of getting this whole ecosystem to function smoothly?
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, I think Shreyas is not connected, but he didn't mention, but I would like to place my appreciation on the recent accolade which the project got. And I was just looking at the Rajiv Mishra's post that UN has recognized Namami Gange project in the 10 pioneering initiatives that are restoring the natural world. So I think it happened yesterday only, and there, or maybe a day or 2-3 ago, but it has been reported very widely in today's newspaper. So that is really a commendable, very, very commendable work being done by the government of India, and particularly the Namami Gange project and the officers who were part of this whole team.
Absolutely.
So coming back to your, it's a very interesting question, like, because I have been in policy space like for more than 2 decades. So I've spent around, it is my 26th year in Indian Administrative Services, but so broadly I can say that 2 decades almost, because the initial 5 or 6 years go in the field actually implementing the policies. So, and when I interact with industry and businesses and civil society and people who are not directly or into the government or not directly the part of the government, this is a very interesting question which comes up, that there is a policy paralysis, or right policy is not in place, or maybe like something, the policies are not working. So things are on paper, but not happening on ground.
Never happening on ground. Yeah.
So yeah. So, but picture is not so gloomy as you
absolutely
mentioned
no,
in
I
the
agree.
beginning. So, but yeah, because see, when we talk about policy, it is mostly public policy. When we talk about public policy, then there are 3 very, very important critical aspects which become part of public policy. So I always, whenever I go to different forums to speak or to discuss the issues in panel discussions like this, so I always say that you have to, like when an industrialist talks about that, like industry's policy or investment policy is not working. It is in place for last 3 years, but nothing is happening.
Yeah.
But then they forget the different aspects of the policy with which it was designed. I'm not saying that all policies are always successful. Policies die, policies are success, policies are failure. We keep on modifying policies. So I am a firm believer that there should be a kind of M&E system, monitoring and evaluation of the policy outcomes. Then there should be feedback loops, and then if required, policies should be modified. So one is social aspect. So even if it is like I would go to the extent of saying that if you have to launch a rocket or you have to launch a space mission, certainly there would be a social aspect. So where to spend what money? What is my priority? Is it education or it is launching a space satellite? So if launching a space satellite works for an agricultural farmer, It goes on for remote sensing, collecting data as like was being mentioned.
Ganesh, yeah.
So social aspect is there. Then another is economic aspect. Things do not work out like in plus and minus in monetary terms always. It is not about finance, it is about economics.
Yep.
So there are large number of benefits. There are large number of externalities. There are large number of costs which are difficult to monetize, and somehow our policy framework and institutions as of now in our country are not so strong and robust to translate the externalities into economic financial costs.
Yeah.
And third is certainly environmental. I cannot keep on allowing like the thermal power plants, coal-based thermal power plants. So any business house which is into setting up of thermal power plants would say there is no good policy in place to promote thermal power plant, but they can be. So when you talk about this particular aspect of energy efficiency or using renewable energy into the water sector, the role of private sector, the role of government and role of civil society. So these are the three aspects on which we have to focus upon. That is number one thing. Any good policy should be creating a nice balance among these three objectives.
Yes.
In some areas, in some subjects or fields, environmental issues will be more like if you are creating a policy or framing a policy for like to reduce carbon emissions, then certainly environment becomes the top priority. But then the manner in which impacts the society and the livelihood of the people, it has to be taken care of. Second aspect is the when we government frames any policy. So now I'm very fond of this. I read it somewhere that any technology, so in this particular case, we are talking about energy efficiency. So energy efficiency or energy conservation, basically it has got two aspects as per my understanding. One is use of technology to promote energy efficiency. In what all manner we can use best of the technology which is available to us to reduce energy footprint or water footprint. So how can government promote that? That is the one aspect. Government will have to come out of the way, again keeping the broad objectives under sight, that how the technology for energy efficiency thing has to be promoted. Maybe the NGOs or the startups like this which are working in small areas and they want to scale up, and if there are good results, then they need to be promoted. Even if the government has to part with some kind of funding from its checker, it has to be done. And second, very critical aspect apart from technology adoption is the way we live, lifestyle change. That is
that's a huge one.
That is also a very, very essential aspect when we talk about energy conservation or efficiency, because as we know, energy saved by any method or conserved is the, I say, not only cheapest, it is the most green energy.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Even if had it been generated by a thermal power plant, but if you make that thermal power plant not generate more, that is the best thing which you are doing. That is, you are doing away with the negative costs which emission is creating and causing. So it is not only the cheapest, but it is the cleanest energy. I would say cleaner than rather the solar or wind power generation, because they also have some kind of life cycle impact on the environment and
with the batteries and all of that. There are.
How do we live in future? That is in our hand. So I'll give you an example of this SBM, Swachh Bharat Mission, and then even the COVID vaccination thing. Here, government has a very critical policy role to play, like what Mr. Parameshwaran Iyer sir, he did in Swachh Bharat Mission, and our Honorable Prime Minister. So like, we have to change the behavior. It goes a long way. It goes a long way. So now there is a nudge forum also, which has been created.
Yes.
A lot of international, global think tanks are working on it. And now like UK has done an excellent work in creating a nudge center. So how to bring this aspect of behavioral change, because it requires very less investment. It requires less capital.
And the returns.
And the returns are huge and high, and they are more sustainable always. Like what has happened in Swachh Bharat Mission, they are more sustainable. So it is a very nice thing, which I appreciate quite a lot about the Government of India's now frame of policy making, that they try to bring in at lot many of places this issue of change of behavior.
Driven by behavioral economics.
The whole thing about gas subsidy for go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it was again a part of behavioral change.
Absolutely.
So energy conservation, energy efficiency, two wings. One is adoption of technology and another one is this behavioral change, or the way we live, lifestyle changes, what we use, how we travel, what we eat, what we hear, how do we organize meetings and conferences. So everything is part of it. And last thing, when we talk about technology adoption, then I'll stop at this particular point, is any technology. There are 3-4 stages. This is the thing which I was talking about. I read it somewhere and it was a very, very good article. That one is that the technology, whether has been found to be technically feasible or not. So around, I always quote that around 12 years ago, I was managing director in State Mineral Corporation. So we installed, that is in Udaipur, in southern Rajasthan, and we installed wind power mills in the western part of Rajasthan, that is in the desert area. At that time, the PPA was somewhere around 15 rupees per unit. So technically, logically maybe, to be more precise, the solution was available that you can rotate the turbine and generate energy.
Yeah.
But it was during that time not economically viable.
Financially feasible, yeah.
Yeah, economically I am coming, then financially I will come later on. So there are actually technically viable or technologically viable. One, two is it economically viable? Then third, is it financially viable? And then last, whether it is commercially viable or not.
Certainly.
Now solar energy, which was like 12, 13, 14 rupees per unit, it has come down to 2 rupees per unit. So when the state distribution companies were paying 12 or 15 rupees for renewable energy, it was a very, very bad financial or commercial deal for them. But even then, government went ahead with the policy push. So this is what you are talking about, that what is the policy criteria or what the policies should be framed in the manner kind of thing. So government has to push those technologies which are technologically viable, economically viable they may appear, but then the business house would say or the bank would say no, because when you talk about being economically viable, you translate the social benefits also, but they do not appear in black and white. The bank would say, okay, good, wind turbine or your solar panels can generate energy, but you are not making good enough money out of it.
Absolutely.
I'll not loan you.
Yeah.
But the government comes, no, okay, I'll buy energy from you. So that is the policy role of the government. So economically viable is being second stage. Then third is it becomes financially viable. Now the technology in your books has come to be financially viable. Okay, the bank would say, okay, fine, good. So this is the loan, this is your debt equity ratio, and I will grant
we'll fund it and
your payback period, and you'll make such and such amount of return on equity, and good proposal. I sanction you 1,000 crore rupees. So it becomes financially viable. Last is commercially viable. Then so when I talk about distributed generation, I talk about the technology having come to the stage that I, as a middle class
consumer
in any urban area, say that मेरे को ऊपर solar rooftop लगाना है. It has become commercially viable.
Yeah.
So then the technology has been adopted in true sense.
Absolutely.
So at these different stages, where government has to intervene, in what manner government has to support, that is the whole crux and gist of policy framing. So, and in large number of sectors, government has done excellent work: health, education, SBM, industrial development. And at many places, we have failed or not achieved full success. Maybe we have not been able to understand these particular finer points where we should be intervening. Yeah. So I think it broadly answers your question.
No, thank you so much. It frames it as, it frames public policy as this evolutionary process where at each stage the government has to play different roles, and then through experiences and feedback loops also improve upon the role that it can play. So thank you so much for that. So let me quickly come to Mr. Gaurav Gupta, and after that I'll come to Josiane and Dheeraj. So, Mr. Gupta, if you could talk a little bit about, reflect on the conversation that has happened and talk a little bit about the role of, the private sector and the role of technology in, pushing forward the whole agenda, working with the government and pushing forward the whole agenda of, improving energy efficiency in the space of water infrastructure. That would be great. So over to you, Mr. Gupta.
Thank you, Arpit. Thank you, Ajitabji, and all the panelists to be here with us on this forum. So I'm really thankful to Ajitab sir to distinguish difference between the energy conservation and energy efficiency. So these both aspects are really entirely different. I will more focus on the energy conservation.
Sure.
So specifically on the public water infrastructure, if we talk about the power consumption of public water infrastructure in India, it is around 12 billion unit every year. And if we add the pumping system for irrigation in that, it is alone more than 100 billion unit. So a huge power is being utilized. As per the survey conducted by Bureau of Energy Efficiency in 2008-9, the saving potential in public water infrastructure itself, it is around 22% as per the Bureau of Energy Efficiency and CEA reports. But based on my experience, based on the survey and the pilot projects done by Desire Energy in various states, it is more than 32% in particularly public water infrastructure.
That's a potential.
That's a potential. And this is the proven potential. We have delivered more than 14 projects in 3 states, 7 projects in Rajasthan, 4 projects in Gujarat, and 1 in UP. So a huge potential is there for energy conservation. And that is the main reason behind this forum. You can say that the name of this forum is the power of conserve.
Yeah.
So, right. So there is a huge potential in conserving the energy, specifically in the water infrastructure. So if I talk about first basic reason behind the this inefficiency in the public water infrastructure, what Ajitabji and the other panelists already explained, the policies. Yes, on time being, the policies are being changed, as the example quoted by the last panelist for the Namami Gange project, but it is not yet implemented in a vast manner. Still, the procurement policies are based on L1. जो सस्ता देगा उसको मिलेगा, और सस्ता efficient होना, it's really difficult.
Sure.
Yes, when some of the projects lead by the ESL and other, that could be achieved when the projects done in a large scale. So this is one thing. Another very important thing is the operation and maintenance phenomena. As of now, especially the water infra industry is being taken care by the people who actually do not know what is the predictive maintenance, what is the preventive maintenance. There is no data is being captured.
Very important.
So I'm really thankful to the government of India for the Jal Jeevan mission. They have given a specific budget for the data monitoring and predictive maintenance through utilizing the RTU and IoTs. And by that, a huge energy can be conserved actually. If I talk about the specific projects delivered by the Desire Energy utilizing the...
I'm sorry, I think we have some disturbance coming from one of the... Is it Mr. Deepak Kumar? May I request you to mute yourself? Or if our backend support team could help us with that, that'll be great.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Mr.
Yeah. So if I talk about some of the projects which we have delivered, let me talk about the Ajmer energy conservation projects we are doing with the Public Health and Engineering Department of Rajasthan. We took it in 2017. 350 villages were there, and those were being supplied through the more than 35 pumping stations around the Ajmer districts, and more than 400 plus kilometers pipeline by laying down, and the electricity bill was around 12 CR per month actually. So when we take care of this project, we take the energy efficiency measures because the water is being lifted from the Bisalpur Dam. And the main reason behind the inefficiency is due to the design is based on the minimum level of the dam, and the pump have been designed with a use pressure and discharge maximum required flow. So we make the various changes into the hydraulic design. We make the various changes into we utilize the new technology like VFDs and all. Yeah. And would you believe, Arpit, we are conserving 40% energy out of that single project.
That's a huge number, 40.
We are conserving 45 million electric unit by our 14 projects. Those are Ajmer is one of them, then Jodhpur in Rajasthan, Mehsana in Gujarat, Sanand in Gujarat, and Sirohi and Churu in Rajasthan, Bharatpur in Rajasthan. So by these small projects, we are conserving 45 million.
Sorry to interrupt you, but this is really a commendable work which your company is doing. But I just simply wanted to know, because I think few days ago only the amended conservation bill was passed in the parliament. So like for such kind of projects, is there any provision of like getting some kind of carbon credits or something? Or not as of now?
Ideally should be, yeah.
I'm not fully aware if anything has happened.
Yeah, it is there, and you will be pleased to hear, sir, we have applied for the carbon credit on the global forum, and it is one of its kind for conserving this energy from the public water infrastructure.
So yeah, okay.
So it is there in the new policy. It is there. Provision is there.
In the policy in our country, or you mentioned about that, like you are going for international.
International, it is there. About our country, I'm not very sure it is there or not, but yes,
I think right now just the act has come, and then it'll have to be implemented.
I have to read that, but like we already have this RPO kind of thing, purchase or obligation, and then we had those REC, Renewable Energy Certificate Scheme, when I was mentioning about these wind turbines in Western Rajasthan, so we traded with Sweden those carbon credits at the time, but again the domestic market was not available. So that's another big thing to go if we want to promote on the technology or the policy front, when you were talking, which you were asking about, of having some kind of domestic market.
Yes.
Trading of these kind of emission reduction credits which we are creating. Thank you. Please carry on, Gaurav.
Yeah, thank you. So this is one part of energy conservation. If I talk about the energy efficiency and renewable sources in public water infrastructure itself, we have created a complete ecosystem, especially for the rural part of the country. For drinking water supply, we are utilizing the solar energy. We are extracting the water through utilizing the solar energy, treating that and supply to the rural part of the country. And we have installed more than 12,000 units in 3 states. And this is not the only thing. We have focused on its operation and maintenance. We have developed our one IoT-based product named as Aqualogics, by which we are not just taking the data from those 12,000 units. We are utilizing that for the predictive maintenance. We have created a local social system. We have employed the local, जो गांव में जहां system लगा है वहां का बंदा, उसको वो app दिया, we given the required training, and now he is maintaining that based on the instructions and the predictive analysis given to his mobile app, and those all 12,000 systems based on the solar energy is being operated consistently and providing the uninterrupted water supply. So these are the live example we are doing, but I'm sure that the policymakers like Ajitab ji and other panelists in the forum can really take up these kind of policies further so that more and more projects can be taken care.
True.
So
absolutely.
I think the time is short.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have to come to Dheeraj, Mr. Praveen Singh, Josiane. So I'll go to Dheeraj first, go to Josiane, and then talk to Mr. Praveen Singh. So another policy maker from Niti Aayog, Mr. Sant Dasani, my question to you is that, if you could reflect on the discussion that's already taken place, what's the role of public policy in creating and facilitating the ecosystem, and also the fact that if you could reflect on technology transitions and that creating winners and losers, and how can we ensure that the adoption of technology is equitable across the society. So if you could reflect on these 2 points, then I'll move to Josiane with the same question on winners and losers. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks, Gaurav, for inviting me to this panel discussion. Really excited to see Ajitab sir and see him talking about water governance. No, I've been reading your article, sir. Good to hear.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I actually wanted to touch upon some other aspects, but I wanted to now pick up the thread that Ajitab sir has already mentioned, that the government has to really come out of the conventional way and really talk about technologies that are energy efficient in our water infrastructure. And I'm reminded of an example that my father told me. So he studied in Netherlands, and it's a very interesting example. And we are still, in our planning, we still lack this, and I think this is the right forum to raise this up. So they were all the students, they were studying water engineering there. They were taken to a site visits, and my father asked the professor, "Why are we not going there and have a look at the?"
He was not in TU Delft.
He was in IHE.
IHE part of that.
Yeah.
Very lucky.
So,
it's my dream to be there.
Yeah.
Right.
So he was working with the government of Gujarat's water department, and he was sent to study sanitation, water engineering there. The example that I want to quote here is that the professor said, "No, we are not going to look at the ESR because it's not an ESR or a water tower anymore. It's someone's residence." And the students were very surprised. How is it possible? Are you really telling us that people live inside that? They said, "Yeah, we because we thought that the government thought that the technologies and the concept of ESR is obsolete. That doesn't work. It's not energy efficient. We have replaced those with variable speed pumps that can actually maintain the pressure and achieve the same targets, same goals and aims by which you're trying to establish an ESR." Coming back to India, so as at Niti Aayog, we receive a lot of project proposals coming from different states, coming from ministries, right? And when we look at the water supply infrastructure planning, I always see ESR there. Now, Ajitab sir would echo with me on because he's now looking at transport. In transport also, we have something called alternative mobility plan or alternative plan when you go about metro, which type of metro, what are your alternatives, something like that. But in water, you asked me what government should do, right? So I think at the local level, what is your decision matrix looking like? Do you give enough importance to energy efficiency in your overall project planning? No, because if you would have been giving, then you would have definitely thought of what alternatives do I have if I don't want to construct an ESR. Because ESR is again a disaster prone thing. It's huge in construction. You need to keep someone who can go and clean it, right? And you're trying to, maintain the head for a nearby resident also and the farthest point also. Whereas a speed pump can do the job for you just on a SCADA system or something like Aqualogics can come in. So that's how, technology can be promoted. And we really need to look on those aspects. And I'm glad to say that now Amrut has come and it has a startup challenge. It invites entrepreneurs to come up with these kind of solutions. But the only limitation I feel, and Ajitab sir would know more, because when you sit with local level, maybe at village or a district level, there is this political will also, because these ESR and some conventional infrastructure looks like a sign of development, right? Right. Whereas the last outcome is to have a water at my household, which will still serve the purpose that this government was able to bring water to your household. But by whatever means, it doesn't matter to me as a citizen. Doesn't matter to me. You just give me a functional household tap water connection. I don't care if there is an ESR or there is a submersible pump. But as the utility at the municipal level, the energy cost, which is roughly about 40 to 60%, if I'm not wrong, of your O&M, if I can save that, that's a huge saving for me. I would be able to put that money in maybe wastewater recycling, setting up. So that's one thing that I feel that in the decision matrix, I don't know, it can be mandated or not, but this push, that every decision you take in your planning needs to, take care of your energy efficiency aspects also. That's one thing I would like to share on that.
No, absolutely. And Dheeraj, if you could also very quickly just probably reiterate the point about ESR. So you think a lot of that is happening because some of those initiatives are just a lot more visible, and or is it just because that sort of decision matrix inclusion is not there, or is it just both of them?
So just before this meeting, I was working on a different scheme, and we were evaluating that, why these kind of problems happen. Like why everyone knows net zero goals, everyone knows impacts of climate change, but then why it's not happening at local level, right? So we can't only blame the policies and the functionaries there. So we were looking at the urban planning scenario of India, and what we realized is that the schemes are designed keeping in view funds, functions, and functionaries. So you give funds for a project. Functions are a state subject; they either the state are doing or municipal level they are doing. But do we have a right set of functionaries at all level, and do they have the right set of capacities to have that decision, or to be able to understand what is good and what is bad for me in terms of
But I'm
energy
thinking,
efficiency?
can Niti Aayog play a role in that capacity development and then just, that awareness generation?
Yeah. I mean, we must, and we are in process of doing a lot of things together. Because you've asked me, I would also like to share that with in partnership with GIZ, we are
Ah,
coming up with five. We are going to select five AI ready use cases, which can be, in water and waste. So one of them is in water. What AI ready challenges are already, that world has implemented and India
yeah.
can learn, and there is a possibility for India to implement those challenges. So we are going to develop an roadmap for that, an actionable roadmap for that. It's so easy in terms of understanding that a municipal commissioner or his or officers can understand if I want to implement this, like something like ecologists. So
Yeah.
what works best? So that Niti Aayog is already into it. We're going to come up with a roadmap of such use cases in technology use cases where we can implement it.
That would be terrific. And might I also, suggest that I'll probably send it over to you. There's a tremendous, compilation of use cases by WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization, and
Mhm.
based on AI applications to conservation, etc. And that I think is a great,
Yeah,
database to.
yeah.
So yeah.
And we have also, just one last point, we've also moved out, like we have also evolved in our policy planning also. It's not that,
Oh yeah. Oh
okay, because if you see SBM, sir quoted SBM, if you see the difference between SBM and SBM2, it's not only about the scope of work in waste and water.
qualitatively different.
Very important thing that changed. If you see the SBM2 fund disbursement protocols, you get the final funding of the mission only after you have achieved a one-star rating of garbage-free cities. So conventionally, we have been project-based funding. You do this
Yeah.
project, send me UC, I will approve it, you get the money.
Not the outcome
Now it's
based as.
performance based. Now
Yeah.
it's performance. So we've gradually coming to that stages, and I'm sure going ahead we have to do it more. Not only last
No,
installment.
absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely. No, thank you so much, Dheeraj. This was really insightful. Let me go over to Josiane. Josiane, my question to you is that, since you've looked at it at the global stage, everywhere there's this question about technology transitions coming out with winners and losers. And the question about, how can technology adoption become more equitable? How can, the person on the ground, maybe, not coming from the wealthiest of localities or backgrounds, can also benefit from all of this, tech development? Because most of the time what happens is that most of these, whether mitigation or adaptation technologies, the intellectual property is owned between, like, 80% of it is owned between 15 countries in the world, and transferring it to other countries in the global south, etc., becomes a big challenge. So if you might want to reflect on that, Josiane.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arpit, and thanks to all panelists. And yes, as I'm coming from, I work with development-related areas. So when we talk about the context of the losers and the winners, I see it in a context of like those countries that do not have ability, as you mentioned, the ability to adopt it to the new technologies. So like according to an article by UNCTAD, that's United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, as you mentioned, they say that currently most technologies are created in the farms in the global north, and they tend to focus on the demand of the rich and crowding out innovation that might benefit the poor. And when we look at it, there are three main challenges that developing countries or countries that have the poor countries are facing, and one of them is poverty. And as Mr. Sharma mentioned, like many people in developing country cannot afford expensive or sophisticated technologies, particularly in those rural areas. And when we are talking about like developing frameworks, you need skills, you need access to funding as well to be able to achieve that. And the other thing is like as they mentioned in the discussion before, most of the technology require digital or access to internet. And many countries, especially in developing countries, especially in the rural countries, they are still offline. The digital infrastructure and even when the internet is there, is not affordable. And also there is shortage of skills or lack of the knowledge to be able to either develop those frameworks, those policies. There's still a gap between the science, technology, and the policy. So now to overcome these challenges and coming back to you on how to ensure equitable technology, I would say, I would like to mention the concept of leave no one behind. This is a concept we see a lot, which is the central transformative promise of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its goals. And I think, in my opinion, and I think it is the responsibilities of the government and the international community, especially, to establish ethical framework that guides new and emerging technology to support sustainable development and also support equity. And for reducing inequalities, government can draw from a broad range of instruments, including regulatory measures and economic and fiscal instruments, as it was mentioned before, as well as smarter policies on trade, investment, and industry, and also investing in education and innovation, and also creating that synergy of exchange, especially as you said, like we are looking at the poor countries, and we have developed countries that have advanced. Creating that synergy of communication and that synergy of interchange can really help those countries not leave no one behind, exactly in that concept. And another one would also to look into governments to foster supportive, innovative system and the impacts on inclusivity and, as I mentioned, sustainable development, making sure that whenever new technologies need to be deployed at a scale with plans to pass the baton from scientists, engineers to entrepreneurs and others, and having in mind that we're trying to boost household incomes, like we are looking into technology adoption as something to not only be able to, yes, we are moving into energy efficiency, but how are we contributing to how are we boosting their household? We cannot achieving net zero, but while having this gap of inequalities would not be the ideal of the world we are looking for. So we want, as much as we're moving towards net zero, as much as we are moving towards removing the greenhouse gases, but also increasing the household income of the rural and poor population. And also, so to sum up, I would say that the government needs to maximize the potential benefits however, while mitigating harmful outcome. As much as technology is something good, it comes with a lot of benefit, but if it's not, as you say, if it's not equity, it will create a gap that will be very hard to be able to remove in the future, and ensure universal access. And by creating this vision and the mission and the plan that shapes the market for inclusive and sustainable innovation. So I think that's what I want to myself. Like, there's a lot we can talk about this, but we really need to address the challenges and look for the solutions, and also create this this connection and of developed countries, or like even when we talk on a context of a country itself, like we have as a country, some countries are not, or all the countries are not equal. So you have regions that are either poor areas or that are advanced, but we also we can go to company level. Like some companies have ability to adapt new technologies, but other companies cannot be able. So how do we have to create that synergy of working together, trying to leave no one behind? Thank you.
No, thank you so much. And I would also probably add that there's also a huge need for not just, we typically think that developed countries would give technologies to developing or underdeveloped countries, but there's also a lot of local innovation and a lot of local technology which is relevant for the context of developing economies that can be benefiting the developed economies as well as other developing economies. So the south to south transmission of technology and ideas is also something extremely important and worth looking into. So with that, I know we are running very short on time. So last but not the least, I would want to come very quickly to Mr. Praveen Singh. Thank you so much, Mr. Singh, for your patience. And now my question to you is the following. You are really a leader in the field of pumping technology. And I want to understand what's the role and development of pumping technology via the vis-a-vis the Indian public water sector. Like, what role does the pumping technology play in that? And if you could talk more about what's the sort of investment scenario in this particular technology, and how can that investment scenario be improved? I would have some follow-up questions, but if you could just start with this, please, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, Arpit, for this question. In Androids, we already have our ESG goal, and I'm very proud to say here that our 40% of revenue is coming from sustainable products.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we have goal by 2025 to increase this by 10%, and minimum 50% of revenue should come from green product or sustainable product. I'm also very proud to say here that we have about 22,000 megawatt of green energy assets in India. And one of the first commercial power plant, renewable energy from hydro, was done by Andritz in 1902. That was Siva Samudram. Yeah. And we renovated that power plant again after 100 years in 2002. So awesome. Starting from that, and still we continue like what Mr. Ajitab mentioned in pump storage or pump turbine. So the first this very big size, mega size of above 1,000 megawatt of pump storage is also now under construction from Andritz. We are working on another pump storage project in Madhya Pradesh, that is Gandhi Sagar, another one in Rajasthan. Again, we are under discussion. So we have a lot of focus on the sustainable and green product when it's come to pumping technology. I would say here, our pumps are, our goal is to design hydraulic machines initially with high efficiency by design and achieve the hydraulic optimum hydraulic efficiency, then sustainability of high efficiency over the period of operational life, and then finally the plant optimization and latest technology to achieve the operational excellence. So, and I will also mention here that which Mr. Gupta already said about the project in Rajasthan, that Ajmer ESCO city water supply scheme. We are very proud partner for that project. And before that, we did one more project in RGLC, which is supplying water for Jodhpur city. And there I calculated for one power plant, one pumping station, one pumping station for 10 year of operation, we are able to save about 16,000 megawatt of power in 10 years by having this kind of optimum of efficiency and sustainable product at that particular pump house. I'm talking about one pump house.
That is the lift scheme, I think.
Actually, it's a canal which supply
phase
water.
I think it was phase
IGNP. The water goes from IGNP to Jodhpur city through RGLC.
Saving is to this tune, 18 gigawatts.
Yeah, it's a 16,000 megawatt in 10 years for one pumping station we achieved. And similar way, we are continuing our product and technology implementation everywhere in the world, and we are committed to bring this world-class technology for pumping system in India.
So the PHS, I'm sorry to interrupt, but just because I have left department around a year ago, so that PHS thing is perhaps with the Greenco.
PSP.
Yeah.
Pump storage.
That is with Greenco, which you are doing, I think, no?
Yes, Pinnapuram and Gandhi Sagar. These two projects we are doing.
Forest issues were there, like some
Okay. Now it's under direction. Yeah, already.
No, that's fantastic. I think through your pumping technology, the sort of savings that you're leading to, and 16,000 megawatts over 10 years. This is a huge achievement by just one project, and if we could replicate it throughout, potentially every city in the country, that would lead to enormous savings over there. So,
Arpit, I will add one more thing to
please.
Mr. Gupta, what he said about the sustainability and plant operational efficiency, excellence, operational excellence in pumping stations. Because if we talk about the water, 85% of energy goes to pumps.
Yeah.
So
that's mostly pumps where the energy goes
Exactly. So there is a report on Namami Gange project. When we started about 7-8 years ago, this Namami Gange project, the estimate was to have about 2,200 MLD of STPs alongside with the Ganga River to clean the Ganga. And the more than 1,700 MLD STPs were already created when we started this program. So asset creation was never an issue in India, but sustainability was the question always, and it's still. So here
across industries, I think
exactly.
Water sector is at the challenging bottom.
It is very important. It is very important to not to calculate the initial cost of investment, but to calculate the life cycle cost of project. Starting from initial cost, installation, commissioning, energy cost, operational cost, your maintenance cost, downtime cost, loss of production, environmental cost, and finally the decommissioning cost. All should be considered for the project life cycle. And then we should have the decision of going with project and selecting the project, or selecting the contractors or the vendors for implementation of the project. That should be the right way.
Having that long-term perspective on.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I know that we are quite above time, but I would want to invite all of our speakers for closing comments. My prompt for the closing comments would be as follows, but you can reflect on anything that we have discussed so far. So my prompt would be that, how, in your opinion, can the private sector, government, and civil society organizations work together to support the implementation of energy efficiency measures in India's water infrastructure? So if you could reflect on this or on any of the things that we have dealt with so far. And let me first invite Mr. Ganesh Shankar to share his views, and then we'll just go around the table very quickly, please.
On the backdrop of COP27, I would like to say that if climate change is shark, water is its teeth. So we have to definitely give the priority on water at all levels. Both water comes at the emission, as Ajita ji said, it accounts for 10% of emission in the whole world. And also it comes on the risk mitigation. So this way, I think risk and understanding the water-related risk at all level is very important, both from the mitigation and at the adaptation level. That would be my
absolutely closing. Thank you. Short and sweet. Thank you so much, Ganesh. Makes a lot of sense. Let me move over to Josiane. And Josiane, if you could deliver your final remarks, please. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you. So my final remarks will be like, first of all, since I don't have many work experience related to India, but I will say in a global context. And if I go back on my points on the context of losers and the winners, in the context of equity, developing countries will rely on, as you mentioned, we rely on international cooperation, but yes, we should also embrace the national and traditional knowledge and how to boost this knowledge. And I think it's a World Economic Forum that has a very nice platform where they bring in investors to check to find the technologies or to find the new startups that are really tackling the world challenges, and then they boost them in terms of financial abilities and in terms of skills abilities. And I think if we can have some things like that in country-wise, and also in private sectors. So countries like sometimes we have private sectors, they are willing to support, but sometimes they don't know where to support. If there's something that can be brought awareness to countries that can really address that gap of fundings, that is mostly an issue when it comes to new technologies and the implementation.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, the World Economic Forum is a great platform for that. I was fortunate enough to be there in Davos in 2020 as part of these consultations. And it's just amazing to see how they're able to bring in different stakeholders, and those stakeholders are able to help each other out and make commitments right there and then as part of these consultations. So something that, our governments could probably adopt. So that's Josiane. Thank you so much. Now, let me go over to Mr. Praveen Singh, and then eventually I would come over to Mr. Gaurav Gupta and Mr. Ajitap Sharma. So, Mr. Singh, over to you.
So I would say in closing that we should have the individual and as well as the departmental goal also for each and every department, whoever consume the energy, whoever use the energy. As an individual, I will start from myself. That how much carbon I'm using and how I can contribute to the society by reducing the carbon footprint of myself, and then finally for the society. And then there should be, if we want to achieve by 2070 this net zero goal for India, then there should be target for each and every city, all the utilities, infrastructures, whoever consuming the energy to reduce the carbon footprint, because we are still not developed country. We are still under development, and we cannot uh, uh, expect that we will have the similar goal as Europe, who already developed. They have nothing much to
Absolutely.
do on the infrastructure side and all. So, of course, the target is very optimistic, but we have to start from ourselves.
No, absolutely. And, what you say is very much in line with what PM Modi also said while he launched the Mission Life. That's the lifestyle for environment, while the COP27 at Sharm el Sheikh was taking place. And, that's the idea that individual life choices could bring down emissions by some estimates by even 70% across the world. So that's really the big target out there. So thank you so much, Mr. Singh, over there. And let me bring in Mr. Ajitab Sharma first, and then Mr. Gaurav Gupta as the host to close this discussion. So, Mr. Sharma, if we could have your final comments over here, please.
Yeah, thank you, Arpit. So, final takeaways or what I feel is like, number one, as like Ganesh very well mentioned about the shark and teeth analogy. So, a few of the old IPCC reports mention that the worst and most pronounced impacts of climate change would be visible through the lens of water. May it be like the rising sea levels or increase in the extreme weather events or cyclones or extreme rainfalls or change in water cycle, or maybe the impact on agriculture, impacting our water energy food nexus. So water that way becomes very, very, very important in terms of climate change impact on societies, and particularly the disadvantaged and the marginalized. So and global warming, climate change, because of emissions, mostly related to energy consumption, both primary energy and the generated electricity part of the energy. So water energy nexus, it becomes of critical importance for our future pathways. So understanding those interlinkages, how water and energy interact at different parts of the way we live and the whole idea of policy framing. And as was very rightly mentioned about the life cycle analysis, the LCA, in this whole LCA process, how water and energy interact at different forums in different areas and arenas, that would be very important for the policymakers as well as the industry and the financial markets when they finance the future infrastructure projects. So it would become very important. Another thing is that it would be very important for our whole policy framework to get shifted in a way to understand those interlinkages. Because when you take policy decisions in any area, not only the government, like if a financial institution takes a policy call, we discussed about the ESG thing also, or when a corporate house, so they adopt a kind of ESG kind of corporate governance structure. So then how the projects are financed, how the projects are implemented, the top line, the bottom line of the businesses, of the corporate houses gets impacted. So there would be trade-offs. So it is very important to understand those trade-offs in that whole LCA thing, where we can create the synergies, because some parts would be losing. How do we address those parts through different kind of maybe financial products or policy products? And how do we address those stress points? Because when whatever kind of policy pathway we adopt to reduce or mitigate the emissions or reduce the impact of climate change, so there would be some winners and some losers.
Absolutely.
So that would be the most challenging aspect, where finally the climate fund is going, how the green climate funds or green bonds are functioning. Because unless we start addressing those issues from the very outset, then our policies or policy decisions may fail in the long run.
Yes.
And the biggest challenge which I observe, that at the national level, these things are happening. There is discourse which is happening. So like Niti Aayog is talking a lot about it, and different ministries of government of India is talking about it. But when we step a level below, like when you come to the states or to the regional level, or when you go down to the local level, like was Ganesh was mentioning, there is a big paucity of data and analysis. So we can say that Indian monsoon would be like changing like this. Meteorological department would come out with very good and precise projections. But then now what happens in Barmer? What happens in Bhopal?
Yeah.
Like what happens in sugarcane belt of Maharashtra? So granularity of those analyses and the granularity of the availability of data for the local and regional governments to take decisions is a big challenge. So that needs to be taken care of. So what kind of framework or institutions we develop to address this issue would be a big thing and is still being awaited in a long way.
Absolutely. And I think that, think tanks that focus on the state and regional and local levels are much needed in that sense. No, thank you so much, sir, for your very insightful comments over there. And finally, I'd like to invite Mr. Gaurav Gupta to reflect on the discussion and also to close this panel, please.
Yeah, thank you, Arpit. So I believe use potential is there for energy conservation, and required technology, required pump, policies, everything is there. The important thing, what I believe, is to change the mindset. I'm just quoting where I started this energy conservation business specifically for the water infrastructure. 12 years back, I was just presenting in a meeting of PhD Rajasthan itself. And one of the IAS officer, Mr. Ram Lubhaya, Jitabji might be knowing him. He
It was long back, yeah.
Yeah, sir. So he understand what I wanted to say, because I was trying to let the people know that there is a use scope in the pumping segment for energy conservation, because the pumps manufactured at 80%, 85% efficiency. And when they are running into the pumping stations, they came within a 2-3 months at 40-45% energy. But nobody was able to understand me at that time. But fortunately, I got someone who understand what I wanted to say. And he gave me a pilot project 12 years back in Bharatpur district. Deeg and Kama, small districts, small towns are there with 28 numbers of submersible pumps. And we did that pilot project, and everybody came to know that it's really can be achieved. And after that, we got the Jodhpur and other water supplies on energy conservation concept. So the important thing is to understand, yes, it can be done. We need to understand that pump life cycle, because the capital cost is only 7.5% of the entire pumping system. If we talk about the complete life cycle of a pumping system, it is only 7.5%. 5 to 7.5%, it's a O&M cost. The balance 80-85% is the energy cost. So all the policies shall be made upon that. All the things should be based on that. We need to think from a different perspective. And for the same, since last 10 years, we are conducting this Power of Conserve Award specifically for the engineering students, engineering graduates who are into the final year in the engineering. And since last 10 years, all the IITs, NITs, and other engineering colleges are joining us. And even the last year, more than 3,000 students participated in that. And this year also, it is being conducted at 3 p.m. today. It's an online pitch competition, just to make aware that at the student level, because in future, these all engineers will go into the PhD, they will join some pump company, they will join some Niti Aayog, or might be some of them able to become bureaucrats like Ajitabji and all. So they will make the policies. So Desire Energy is just trying to make that awareness at that initial level, that energy conservation is really having a great power within it, and that can be done and that can be achieved. And then only we can achieve the goal of our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, that we could be at zero by 2017. So thank you so much, all the panelists. Thank you so much, all the audience, to joining us. Thank you so much. Thank you, Arpit.
Thank you so much.
Gaurav, sorry, Arpit, sorry.
Thanks.
So
Yeah,
I
please.
really enjoyed. I really enjoyed. It was a
Thank you.
good learning experience, listening to all members. And you have to promise me one thing. Can I say? Can I speak?
Yeah, please, sir, please.
Okay, so you have to invite me next year also.
Sir.
Right. Thank you.
No, thank you so
Thank
much.
you
It
so much.
was a great
Thanks.
learning experience for me as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.